Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Are you looking to find books worthy of your children to read and which ones you may want to avoid? Well, join me for this week's book review to see if it should be added to your to read list or your banned book list. Today's book review is Lost in the Empire City by Avi. I read Loyalty by him last, I think it was about another year or so ago. So Lost in the Empire City is one of his newest books. This story follows 13-year-old Italian immigrant and his family as they leave Italy and they arrive in Ellis Island, roughly between 1910, 1912-ish era. The first-person narration is told from Santo's point of view, as he is initially charged by his father to keep the family safe until we're all together again. Santo's father initially immigrates to America ahead of his family in order to settle and then prepare the way for them. Roughly 5 years have actually passed between the time that he's left before a letter with the tickets arrive for Santo and his mother and his two younger siblings to leave Naples, Italy for New York City, New York. The opening of the story details much of the destitute living conditions endured in Italy, along with the death of Santo's grandfather and his oldest sister. The family has to then walk from their current location in Baracca to Naples to catch their ship. Once they're there, they are scared that they may not be allowed entry into America and could be sent back to Italy. Santos he really worries, and he has a lot of stress over his family and trying to make sure that their needs are met and trying to keep everyone together. One of the foundational themes of this story is keeping your promises. And so Santo takes that very seriously, that he's sort of the man of the house and he needs to keep his mom and his siblings safe. Once they do reach Ellis Island, the family is separated, and due to the language barrier, Santo has no idea what's happening. After 2 days alone, standing outside of the ferry for Ellis Island, he decides that he needs to venture further inland, for food and water. It isn't long until he's taken in by a local gang leader and becomes part of this thieving group called the Downtown Dukes. Through a series of events, Santos ends up with another notorious thief called Mr. Ashbury, but he is like uptown, not downtown. Mr. Ashbury's tactics are much kinder than those of Willie, his previous gang leader. So that is some aspect of the story that could be a little bit difficult, depending if your reader is super young, because there's like elements of fighting and physical hitting and abuse to kind of keep people subjected. Under Mr. Ashbury, Santos is well fed. He's cared for. He's even taught how to read. And it is within this employment, and I use that in air quotes because he's not really paid, that Santo discovers his missing sister. And through a series of events, Santos is able to reunite with his mother and younger brother as well. So that's sort of a recap and a bit of a spoiler of the entire story. So they do come back together. But for a majority of the novel, I would say probably 3/4, he's really unsure and doesn't know if his family has been sent back. I guess I should take that back. Probably about half the novel, because the first half they're together, but once they're separated, a good majority of that is he's not sure if they're in Italy. He's completely alone. And, you can almost start to imagine and have empathy for a 13-year-old, language barrier, new country, all alone. What do you do? Avi does a nice job of allowing readers into this world of the early 20th century and from the immigrants coming through Ellis Island into New York City and what that may have been like. He chronicles the fear. He chronicles that language barrier that I was talking about that many surely experienced. In addition to the contrast between the hyperbolic promises of America and the reality that many experienced and discovering, like all of that's really conveyed. Regardless, the focus of the novel really is on hard work and the strength of these early immigrants that really paved the way for their later generations. And you see that in the novel as it's wrapping up, that as the characters come back together, as Santos is with his mom and his sister and his younger brother, that they all work really hard to make sure that the youngest brother is the one who's able to go through school. And as he does, he comes home and shares. And so that is a really beautiful aspect of the story. So if you're studying immigrant, different sort of influx of immigration in the US in the early 20th century, this may be something that you want to explore or add as a companion piece for your children to read or look at. I definitely encourage you to go and check out my written review. I have some other little points of interest and things that are in there that you may want to look at, because there are a few mentions of suicide. So I give those references and what those are. So you may want to check those out if those are something that may be questionable for you. There are some references to God and faith. Some are positive and some are not. And so, again, something you may want to go and look at. There's times where Santos is obviously questioning what's going on. In talking one of the nicer boys in the gang, Santo learns about factory fires and some of the harsh conditions that some of the boys faced. And so that's why some of them chose to be thieves than to work in the factories, because they thought that that was actually safer. There is a mention of a hoochie coochie dancer on page 105, as well as a mention about telling some smutty jokes about girls that they didn't know on page 127. So just to kind of put that out there, if that's sort of a no-go for you. Again, you'll find that information on my review if you need more of that. And there's also some great things about questions about who's really a thief, and questions about promise, and promises that are kept by like people and promises by nations. So that's kind of, a cool tie-in and a cool theme that's explored in there. All the characters within this particular novel are fictional, with the exception of one, and that's Lieutenant Charles Baker, who is actually known historically to have been a crooked police officer. So his character is in the book, and he's kind of working with the thieves. And he actually, I think it said that he was executed in 1915 for an actual murder that he was a part of. All of that's in the author's notes, so you can definitely look that up in the book and get more details on that. And I think it gives you a few more sources if you're interested in additional information for that as well. Overall, the story has a strong pool of themes regarding family, keeping your promises, also internal struggles between doing what you know to be right and what you might be doing to struggling to survive. And landing on that hard work is the way to go, not thievery. Again, unfortunately, the main character never knows what happens to his father, so that's sort of an open-ended thing left in the story. But the book does finish with the statement that he really wishes that his father would know that he had kept his promises. I really enjoyed this book by Avi. Again, if you are looking for something along these lines in your curriculum or just for your children to read, literature is also a great place that maybe it's not going to be part of your curriculum, but you guys just want to talk about it, or you just want to expose them to other worlds and understanding what people may have gone through during different time periods. And it really helps develop and build that sense of empathy and compassion for people. So I would definitely give this one 2 thumbs up. I would add it to my to read pile, and definitely stay tuned and check out for what I may have next week.